When you went through the Easy Step interview to set up the company, it created a generic chart of accounts for you. You can go in and add items to that list, or if there's something you know you'll never use, you can delete it or edit the name. You can just customize the list any way you want. The easiest way to access the chart of accounts is right here on your home screen. It says Chart of Accounts. This is a listing of all the accounts that are already set up for you. The way this list is set up is you'll notice over here there are different types of accounts. And if you have two of the types that are the same, and you go back and look at the name of the accounts, they'll be in alphabetical order. If you have your general ledger numbers turned on, they'll be in numerical order. And if you remember, the way you turn on the general ledger numbers, if you want them, because this is not something you have to do, it's just an option, is you go back to Edit, go back to your Preferences. On the left here, you want to be under Accounting, Company Preferences tab, and you would check the box to use account numbers and click OK. And now you'll see they're in numerical order by type. There are some types that aren't even here yet because we have to set them up. What I want to do is go through this list and show you each of the different types, what you'll use them for, and we're going to end up setting up some new accounts along the way. This is where you might want to take some notes because you're going to be setting up a lot of these accounts. Let's go ahead and get started. The first type that I want to talk to you about are bank accounts, and you'll notice there aren't any right now. A bank account would be a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, any kind of account you would have at the bank. If you use PayPal, for example, PayPal will be set up as a bank account. Let's talk about how you set up an account. The easiest thing to do is just right-click anywhere on the screen and notice there's your New, Edit, Delete, or Make Inactive. Let me just point out what Make Inactive means. Once you set up an account, if you've ever used it even one time and you don't want it anymore, you can't delete it. Let's say you had a bank account you closed, but you did use it for a while, but now you've closed it. You don't want to delete it because those numbers play into your reports. So you can actually make it inactive, meaning it will hide from this list. And if you notice at the very, very bottom of your screen, there's a little checkbox that says Include Inactive. If you ever want to see those, you can actually check the box to see all of the accounts on the list. But we're going to go ahead and create a checking account, so we will click on New. The first thing QuickBooks asks you is, what type of account is it you're trying to set up? And you'll notice there's income expense. Down here is bank. Each time you choose one of these options, you will get a little screen here that shows you what, in this case, a bank account is. Also, if there's some other type of account not listed up here, you can click this drop down and choose it from this list. Right now we're creating a bank account. We'll click Continue. The next thing QuickBooks wants to know is what type of account this is. And you already chose bank, but if you pick the wrong type, you can see that you have a drop down where you can change it. The next thing you'll want to do is put in the general ledger number for this account. I'm going to use the 10,000 series. And then you want to put in the account name. I'm going to use checking, but you can name this anything you'd like. If you want to say operating account, and another one might be a payroll account. Maybe use the bank name. That's certainly okay. And this is not a sub-account of another. We'll talk about sub-accounts in a little bit. Notice there's also some optional information here. You can put in the description, the bank account number, and the routing number. I probably wouldn't put this information in just because you don't want anyone to get hold of that information if they don't need it, and QuickBooks does not need that information. What you will need is an opening balance. It has to have a number to start with. What you'll want to do is get out your bank statement for the month in which you want to start QuickBooks. If you're trying to put in all of this past year, you'll want to get out your January bank statement. And whatever its ending balance is, that's the number that you want to put in here. Also, it says statement ending date. If you're starting with January 1, you want December 31st or January 1 as that statement date. Either one would be fine. I'll just put in 12/31 of 2021. You could also click the drop-down calendar. I'll click OK. The next thing you'll see down here is QuickBooks will remind you to order checks when you reach a certain check number, which you type in here. And if you want to order them from QuickBooks, it'll remind you because Intuit can sell checks to you. Just for your reference, you can purchase checks wherever you'd like to purchase them from. You do not have to purchase them from Intuit. I'm going to hit Save and Close at the bottom. If your transaction is over 90 days, you will get this message just letting you know that. This preference can be changed in the preferences. I'll just go ahead and say yes here because it's asking if I'm sure I want to do this. You might also get this message that pops up. It wants you to set up your bank feeds. We're actually going to talk about that in another section. Right now I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'll set that up later. And you'll see there's your checking account right there at the top. You can see the type is a bank account and there's the total balance. If you double click on any of these that have a balance, you'll get a register. This is a quick way to get into the checkbook register, and you can see that I've got one transaction, my opening balance right here. I'm going to close that. Let's set up one more. I'm going to set up a savings account. I'm going to right click and choose new. This will be a bank account. I'll hit continue. I'm going to name this account savings, and we will say that the general ledger number is $10,100, and I'll enter an opening balance of $15,000. We'll make that date the last day of last year and go ahead and click OK. When I save and close, I should then see the savings account appear in my chart of accounts, and I do. And if you come way over here, it's $15,000 is your balance. This is a good way to look right here and see the balance that you have in these accounts. One thing I want you to make note of is this account right here, which is opening balance equity. Anytime you create a new account and it asks you what is the opening balance, that's what's going to automatically filter into this account. Right now you'll see it's a positive number, but if you had a loan that was more than this, then you would see a negative number in front of it. You can't change that. That's an accurate picture of your books. The next type I want to point out are your asset accounts. Like you see here, they've got two of these. They have furniture and fixtures and accumulated depreciation. This is the one place where your accountant will be very helpful to you because you'll want to set up several different asset accounts to put your physical items into. What I mean by that is you're going to have big buckets. You're going to have one that you'll probably name vehicles. You won't have one for each vehicle, but just the accumulation of the vehicles. You're not going to know how to figure out the depreciation, and again, this is something your accountant can help you with here. Two terms in accounting, you're going to have fixed assets, which are assets that the company owns that make it more valuable and you plan to keep them long term. Maybe a building, for example. Whereas a liquid asset, or what they call other current, is more like inventory. You're worth more because you have it, but your goal is to sell it and get it out the door. I want to point out the accounts payable option as well. This number should reflect any bills that you've set up that you have not yet paid. Let's go ahead and stop the video right here. We do have some more accounts to go through. Let's head on over to part 2 of working with the chart of account.